right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. My name is Andrew Kolvet, executive producer of this fine show, joined by Blake Neff, and we have two guests this hour for the whole hour. One of them is Charlie's dear friend, and I haven't seen him for too long now, Bill Federer, author and speaker. You can find him at AmericanMinute.com. And Dr. Jerry Newcombe, executive director of Providence Forum. You can find him at providenceforum.org. Gentlemen, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show. It's so good to have you both.
Hey, great to be with you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's wonderful.
Well, so I wanted to do this. I think we booked this like a month ago because I saw it coming down the pike here. And I wanted to do this because Charlie's, it was like July 4th might have had it beat as far as Charlie's favorite holidays. But it was July 4th. He loved New Year's. He loved Thanksgiving. And he loved Thanksgiving because it is just such a uniquely American holiday. It's providential. It tells the story of our people and of our heritage, of the spirit that is imbued in us as Americans.
And he liked it because it's giving thanks to God.
Yes.
Which he always wanted us to do. He always did. Whenever anything good happened in his life, glory be to God.
Glory be to God. Well, yeah, and you can actually see this in a tweet that he had just after we won the election. He showed this up 2:08. He posted this November 28th, 2024. He said, "Happy Thanksgiving from our family to yours. We are thankful for the gift of salvation, our amazing children, and God's mercy on our great country this year. Take a moment today to be grateful that we did it. By God's grace alone, we took our country back." Psalm 118, verse 1. So, Bill, let's start with you. In Charlie's honor, I am all about evangelizing the love of this holiday and the uniqueness to the American spirit it represents. Tell us, what makes Thanksgiving unique and so special?
Well, that America is an experiment of people ruling ourselves. So one of the things I did was go back and research every single century of recorded human history to try to find out what the most common form of government is. And it's gangs, and a gang leader with enough weapons we call a king or a pharaoh or a Caesar, Kaiser, Sultan, Tsar. And these kingdoms keep getting bigger because with the latest military advancement, kings can kill more people. So finally, the King of England had the biggest empire on planet Earth. The sun never set on the British Empire. He was a globalist. He was a one world government guy. And America's founders broke away and flipped it and made the people the king. Right? It's a polarity change in the flow of power. But we zoom in on the Pilgrims. Why? Well, they were the ones that had the Mayflower Compact, this idea of people ruling themselves. So at the time the Pilgrims were founding America, you had Chinese emperors, Japanese emperors, Korean emperors, Indian Maharaja. Raja means king, Maha means great. Russian czars, Mongolian khans, African chieftains, kings of Spain, France, and the whole world's basically kings. And here you have these little Christians starting their own community. So one overlooked thing is they got their idea from ancient Israel, that first 400 years out of Egypt, before they got a king. So around 1400 BC, you have the Israelites, millions of them come out of Egypt, and for 4 centuries, no king. It's a total anomaly in world history that we don't appreciate. But when you study it, it worked because everybody's taught the law and everybody's personally accountable to God to follow it. It worked for 4 centuries until the priests went woke. The Levite priests, they stopped teaching the law anymore. And you got Eli, the high priest, his own sons are sleeping with women in the very tent where the Ark of the Covenant is. And this line, every man does what's right in their own eyes. Why? Because the priest stopped teaching what was right in the Lord's eyes. Turns into chaos. They ask for a king and they get King Saul. Why is this story important? The kings of Europe looked to the Bible for their authority, but they looked to the King Saul and after. And the Pilgrims and Puritans that founded New England looked to the pre-King Saul part of the Bible. Both of them are looking to the Bible. One's King Saul and after, and the one's before. So that's why they taught Hebrew at Yale and Harvard. And so this little congregation, they were going to go to Jamestown, submit to the king's government. They got blown off course, land on the shores of Massachusetts. And the captain says, get off the boat. And they go, well, who's going to be in charge? There's no king-appointed person in our little group. 102 of us, nobody's been picked by the king. They do something unique. They take their little covenant church form of government and they make it their civil government. It's called the Mayflower Compact. We and you, presidents of God, covenant ourselves together into a civil body politic. That was the model. And then in the next decade, you have what's called the Great Puritan Migration. 20,000 Puritans flood into New England. And you have pastors and churches founding cities. So Pastor Roger Williams in the First Baptist Church founds the city of Providence, Rhode Island. Reverend Thomas Hooker in the First Congregational Church founds the city of Hartford, Connecticut. This is unique on planet Earth. When the whole world's ruled by kings, and you got pastors and churches founding cities. And anyway, so that's why we look to the Pilgrims. And the word federal is Latin for covenant. We have a covenant form of government in America that can be traced back to these Pilgrims.
I love that. And Dr. Jerry Newcombe, you run the Providence Forum, and your whole mission is to bring back Judeo-Christian values to the United States, make much of them. And you have a place here. You say an article here on your website, America's First Thanksgiving. You're talking about this first Thanksgiving that Bill just alluded to. And you say that it's an annual reminder of our nation's Christian roots and our godly heritage. I do believe this nation is providentially founded. When you look to the first Thanksgiving, you look to the story that's uniquely American. What stands out to you that you want to call attention to for the 2025, our modern Americans?
Well, how much suffering the Pilgrims endured just for the sake of the goal to be able to worship Jesus Christ in the purity of the conscience and be left alone. When they started in England, it was a small little church. The Pilgrims were basically one particular congregation that managed to, when they began in a place in the Midlands in England, about 150 miles north of London, it was all secret, it was illegal. And so eventually they decided, hey, we could be tolerated at least in Holland. So they were able to migrate that. Even there, that wasn't an easy thing to do. And then eventually, about 10 years later, they were able to come to the New World. But through it all, they were suffering. And in fact, in the book called A Plymouth Plantation, which their main leader, Governor William Bradford, wrote, he said at the very beginning, "It is well known unto the godly how ever since the first breaking out of the light of the gospel in our honorable nation of England, Satan hath raised, maintained, and continued wars and oppositions against the saints." And so they suffered one hindrance and persecution after another, but they went forward with their goal. And when they finally got to the New World, and they wrote the Mayflower Compact that Bill Federer was talking about, which was the first beginning of what would become the American constitutional process. The 150 years later, the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution would flow out of the same ideas of self-rule under God that were written down there right in the cabin of the Mayflower. I mean, this is amazing stuff. But they said we came, for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith. And so when they finally were here, despite one hindrance and one setback after another, including the fact that half their number died that first winter, when the harvest came in 1621, they set aside time to give thanks to God in all circumstances. And later on, when they would celebrate Thanksgiving, because they had gone through this period of starvation where the daily ration for each person would only be about 5 kernels of corn, they would sometimes take their Thanksgiving plate. This is at later times of prosperity. And they would put 5 little kernels of corn on the plate to remind them of what they had endured during that time of starvation, where, again, half their number died, but they gave thanks that he allowed them to flourish. So Thanksgiving is such a great reminder of our Christian roots. And a lot of people want to say, well, okay, we can understand the settlers like the Pilgrims and the Puritans, they were Christians, but by the time you get to the founding fathers, they weren't. They were, basically unbelievers. And that's just not true. And anybody who takes Bill Federer's book, America's God and Country, and you look at these quotes from the founding fathers as well as the settlers, including, George Washington and, all the founding fathers, James Madison, you see the Christian faith played a very important role in the thinking of all of them.
Dr. Newcombe, we have a great clip from Charlie basically asserting the Christian roots of our founding, and we might play that this hour. We'll be right back. More when we get back.